Welcome to Inside the Artist's Mind. I'm your host, Trey Goodman. It's art festival time in the Valley, and if you get a chance, check it out. On each episode of IAM, we meet Valley artists to find out what they do and why they do it. Dancing is one of the oldest art forms, yet it's always evolving. On today's show, we meet Paula Moore, dancer and owner of Footprint Studios. Do you know what a news artist does? We'll find out when we speak to Arizona Republic journalist Andrew Long. Well, Andrew Long, welcome to Inside the Artist's Mind. We're here at the Sky Cafe in Mesa. Now, you're a visual journalist for the Arizona Republic.
I am.
And you work on infographics?
Informational graphics.
Yeah. What is that all about?
Informational graphics are, it's just a different way to tell a story. I'm much like a reporter, but instead of writing or words, I use images and drawings, and it's just a different way of...
Well, when we say images, fill me in. Are we talking, you're going out and taking still photos?
Some of it's photography, some of it's, I use 3D software to make 3D images, some of it's hand-drawn. I have a lot of different tools that I use to create.
Well, what's the purpose of the infographics, and what are the tools that you use?
The purpose is to take the reader inside of something, whereas words can do it in one way. When we visualize things, we can take them inside or behind things. And the tools are very much what a reporter would use. It's just a little bit, more on the art side. I use my art skills to do
Well,
that.
if you're a visual journalist and other people are I mean, what's the main difference? There's two different groups at the Republic, I assume, then?
Well, some photographers call themselves visual journalists. I kind of, there's a lot of different names for what I do, and a lot of people take those different names. I've been called traditionally a news artist, is what in the old days they were called. Graphic designers.
Okay.
You can kind of call yourself a little bit whatever you want.
What do you like to call yourself?
I've switched to news artist. I used to be
artist.
visual journalist for a while, and now I've switched to news artist because I kind of wanted to to emphasize the art part.
Art in what way? Like, give me the various levels that you can use art. You can sketch, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
You could take a picture. What else?
It's some of it is. I was a cartoonist.
Oh,
that's how
okay.
I kind of got into all of this. I wanted to be a comic strip artist,
cool.
and I realized that there were people a lot better than me at it, and but I think that wanting to and that trying to draw gave me that ability to sketch things and to see things in a visual way and to look at things. But it's not just hand drawing. It's some of it's computer. Like nowadays, the technology is so amazing. You can do photorealistic, 3D, three-dimensional stuff, and you can do. There's all these different kinds of techniques. Photoshop allows you the ability to, to edit photos and to go in and it's with the idea that you're taking the reader inside of whatever you're doing. So the art is a tool to tell my story.
How do you decide the best way to visualize a story? I mean, how do you go about that?
How do I go about that? A lot of sketching. A lot of it is just sitting down and looking at, asking myself questions and saying, what would the reader want to know? And I consider myself a reader, so I think about, what would I want to see? Where would I want to take myself? And then I sit down and I start sketching that out and trying to figure out a way to bring that world to the reader.
Well, take me through that process. You get assigned a story, I assume. I don't know. What's a typical day? Give me a typical day.
A typical day, there is no typical day.
Okay.
So, it's some of it's assignments. Reporters are working on stories, and I'll get what's called a budget line that'll say, I'm working on this story, and I'll say, well, there's some opportunity there, and I'll go talk to the reporter. That's usually the first step.
So are you selling your service to the reporter?
Sometimes, yeah, a little bit.
Is there any little fight there sometimes?
Yeah, there are, and some work better with me than others, and so it's. But I'm also a reporter myself. Like I can pitch my own stories.
So you have enterprise stories.
I can do enterprise, and or I can bring my own my own thing to what we do. So.
How do you make a story interesting?
How do I make a story interesting? Curiosity. I think it's really asking myself, what's interesting about the story. What is that piece that I can that I can bring to it, and some of it's dysfunction. I'm a very I have wide variety of interests, and that helps me just bring different things to the table.
Do you think the graphics influence the people? And I mean, do you have to balance that?
Influence it? What do you mean by influence?
Well, just maybe give it a certain angle or a certain bent. I mean, an additional angle or an additional.
It's like traditional journalism. You have to watch out for things. You know, like you can't. If I'm visualizing a car accident, I can't make assumptions about things. I have to follow a lot of the journalistic rules.
Okay.
As far as, you know, I usually stick to what happened or
Right,
what
factual.
the facts are.
Okay.
You know, I can take some liberties, but you still have to fall within those basic journalism.
So if it's an
tenets.
emotional type story, you're utilizing graphics in more of a more of a traditional factual manner, or
We've killed a lot of stuff because it just didn't fit what, you know, just because you have something doesn't mean you can share it. I mean, you have to follow some of those rules, and that's, you know, I have those rules upon me as far as.
are there certain stories where you just go, there's no need for a graphic here, or I can't make it work, or the story's too complicated, or how do you,
Or a lot of times the story's just good in itself, like the written word. I mean, there's nothing I can add to it. You know, the reporter has told a great narrative, and I say, you know, give them the room to do that narrative. Sometimes I think that, you know, there's too many words, and I help some reporters take big chunks of stuff out of their story, and if I can tell them in a map or a graphic, then they don't have to write all the words, and their stories become more focused.
how does that work? I went out and I covered this big story, and you're pitching me some graphics. Do we have a timeline we have to wait? We got the next hour or two to get this figured out, or
Well,
we go home
it's
and I think about it, and maybe I'll use your graphic, maybe I won't?
It depends. I mean, if it's breaking news, it's got to happen right there. So a lot of times, if it's something that's happening, we sit down and we collaborate. You know, and I help them pull out the visual end, and they help me with the story. It's their story. You know, they're helping me with the facts and helping me to understand stuff, and I'm helping to bring, you know, some of that other stuff.
Well, who makes the final call? If it's my story, do I get the final call, or do you get the final
It's
call?
editors. It's
So
a lot of it's
people above the
yeah.
level?
I mean, that's why the sketching comes in, and we talk a lot about what we're doing. I have a couple of really good editors that I work with, and we sit down and kind of go over the fine details of it. Usually before I even get started, because it's a lot of talking ahead of time, because you're on a short. I mean, I have turned things in like, you know, a couple hours, and so you really have to like focus on what you're doing. So it's a lot of talking. If you can get that talking out of the way, and get down what you're going to do, then it's just getting it done. You know, just.
Well, I'm sure you look at other people's work around the country.
Oh, yeah.
And how do you know? How do you go? Oh, that's a good graphic, or that's a bad graphic? I mean, what are you looking at?
You know, that's how I learn. I mean, there are some just beautiful artists out there who are making just amazing graphics. You know, National Geographic, even the major newspapers. New York Times does a lot of really awesome data graphics, which aren't, you know, the data is the visual, is the art. So, you know, there's just so much going on in the field. It's you know, they say people aren't as interested in newspapers, but as a craft, it's become, you know, it's really a beautiful thing.
I mean, I love newspapers myself, but I find the charts and graphs sometimes get a little boring. Maybe.
They do.
I mean, what's your read on that?
I think it's that we fall into these kind of stale, tried and true thing, and I have a motto that's surprise the reader. And a lot of that is just looking for different ways to show them. I think you're bored because I'm bored. So if I can have some excitement in what I'm doing, if I can show enthusiasm for the information or the data, you know, maybe you'll be more excited about it.
How do you show enthusiasm in a graphic?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
I mean, is it through color? Is it through?
It's through design. It's through the information. It's through. I think any artist, the work that you do. I mean, if you're excited, you know, it's not a job for me. This is like I get paid for my hobby, and so I really have that type of that mentality when I go to make something. It really is a piece of work.
So if you couldn't do this, then what would you do?
What would I do? That's a good question. If I couldn't do this, you know, fly fishing might be a good.
Fly fishing?
Fly fishing.
So that's a big hobby of yours?
Yeah, I like the outdoors. I think if I could do something outside, it's kind of funny because I'm tied up on a computer all day and I've become really into that. But I like to get out in the outdoors. I hunt and fish and you know, that kind of thing.
Well, you talked about being on the, I think you call it maybe the A team or whatever.
Yeah,
Is that the front page? Define that? What is that?
I work on, it's the First Amendment Center. The Republic did a restructuring, and they created this team called the First Amendment Center, and I work for a part of that's called the A1 team, and it's 2 editors, a copy editor, 2 designers, and then we have a senior editor that works for us. And basically we take in all the stories that would make it on the front page, and we try to package those stories. Those stories may come from all over, maybe it's the sports department, or we have some reporters that work on our team also. And we bring those stories in, and it's packaging. And my part of it is to create those, the art and the visualization of some of this, along with the designers. We have 2-page designers.
So you're not buried in the back. You're you're in the big leagues, right?
It's been a wonderful opportunity to. I came to the Republic in 2005, and I think they liked that my enthusiasm. I think that got me very far. It's because I love what I do, and so. But yeah, I'm right in the middle of it. Any front page story that pretty much comes to the Republic, I'm like right there.
Well, what's the most fun to create? What's the most fun to work on? I mean,
it's the most fun to work on. I think it's the science. I like planets and stuff that offers the opportunity to do good visualizations. I like also the deadline stuff is cool too. Like it's that adrenaline rush of knowing that you have I have 15 minutes to get this done, and it's going to be in front of millions of people the next day.
That's pretty cool.
It's a little bit of that. Wildfires is my most favorite because it really is. It's an event, and you have no control over it. It can go anywhere, and so you get a little bit of that breaking news. It's really intense, but there's great stories to be told as far as like where the fire is at, how they're fighting the fire, how those type of things are just I don't know. I find them fun.
You're really into that. Well, what advice would you give for someone who maybe wants to go into this field?
What advice? I would just be curious. It's.
You need an art background, though?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I know some, they call themselves artists, but they work more with data.
Okay.
There are some people who come from the statistics end of it, who do a lot of the charting and or cartography. You could have a cartography background and do some mapping. Or you could be kind of that, jack of all trades to where you, so I think it's, if you're curious about what's going on, and you have to be a good storyteller. I think in journalism today, if you're not telling good stories, you're gonna, I'm gonna bore you. So you have to.
We have a short attentions.
Yeah, you have to tell good stories, and you have to recognize good stories. So I think that's a prerequisite for whatever you're doing.
Well, the name of our show is Inside the Artist's Mind. What is inside your mind?
I'll go back to curiosity. I am, I think that's what's inside my mind. That's what keeps me. I am just so kind of into what's going on, and I love the next thing and the new thing, and I love searching for that. That search for it is what drives me. So it's really that curiosity.
So you're doing the job you always wanted to do?
Oh yeah, and I didn't know it. I mean, I came to it kind of by accident, but yeah, I think I found, again, I get paid for what I think is my hobby, and I think that's, the way life should be. I think, work shouldn't be work, and I've never felt like it's work, so.
That is very cool. Well, thanks so much for sharing this information. I had no idea what this type of line of work involved. And we appreciate you coming on the show, and maybe we'll catch up with you down the road.
Good deal.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Supporting locally owned businesses is better for the economy, builds unique communities, and preserves the environment. Find out more at localfirstaz.com. Think local, buy local, be local.
So Paula Moore, welcome to Inside the Artist's Mind. We're coming from the Sky Cafe here in Mesa.
It's beautiful. Thanks so much for having me.
I'm glad you like it.
I'm pumped. I love this place.
Now, you're a dancer here in the Valley. What got you started into dance?
Trey, I started dancing when I was about 2, and it was just one of those
2 years
things.
old?
2 years old. My mom took me to my first dance class. I was hooked. I just love dancing. I love movement and the feel that you get, the power in dance?
Well, one of the questions I wanted to ask you later, but I'm going to ask you now because you just told me you started dancing when you were 2.
Yes.
Okay. What would you recommend the age for someone to start dancing? I would assume 2 is awfully early.
No, you know what? I created a class for my daughter when she was 1 year old. When she started walking, I started teaching her dance. Movement is such a natural phenomenon, such a natural thing that children love it when they're that young.
But they're coordinated enough at that age?
If they can jump, if they can bounce, if they can do some basic movements, then they can dance.
Well, now you mentioned that you
Now,
started.
the patience thing, excuse me, the patient thing, you might not have the patience for them at that age, but they're ready to dance.
But you mentioned you started a class, so that brings us to the subject. You have your own studio here in town. It's called Footprints.
Yes.
How did that all come about?
Footprints started actually in my house in a little Arizona room. And out of that, I started teaching dance. I pushed back items and made some makeshift bars. And it was my very first dance studio here.
But how did it get to where you have a very nice building in downtown Phoenix with lots of dancers? How'd you get to that point?
That took some years of building, actually building and spreading the word about the great benefits of dance and how wonderful it is to use your body and to use what you have.
Well, I know I've heard from you, you've said everybody has a dancer inside them. What does that mean exactly?
You know what? Some people say, okay, I can't dance. I have 2 left feet. I'm sure you've heard that
Sure.
before. Everybody has movement, even people that are incapacitated. If they can move their arms, if they can move part of their limbs, if they can move their eyes, they can dance.
So your definition of dancing is pretty broad then?
Yes, it is.
Because most people might say, well,
That's
wouldn't
not
consider
movement.
that. They wouldn't
That's
consider
right.
it dancing. Well, what sort of dance do you teach, and how do the different styles differ?
Okay. Our studio offers ballet, tap, jazz, hip hop. We even have a salsa class, and we have a lot of good workout classes that are used for just exercise.
Now, when I
and
hear salsa, I think
benefit.
that goes with chips. So what is salsa
That's a
dancing?
little bit different from that.
What is salsa dancing?
That's a very high energy, very potent, very ethnic dance.
Now, so you teach all those yourself?
There are 3 dancers in our studio, 3 teachers, and we all specialize in different things. My specialty, I love teaching tap dance, workout classes, and ballet.
Now,
Those are the 3 that
you mentioned you
specialize in.
started when you were 2, and now you have a studio, but there's a lot of time in between there. Where did you go to learn how to dance? How did you, who inspired you to dance?
I started in Gary, Indiana, believe it or not, and from there I went to the University of Chicago, and I trained there for a while. And then I went to Northwestern University. I've always had like 2 majors. My other one was broadcasting, and I minored in dance.
So all
I've been
along
dancing.
you were bringing dancing
I
along.
never stopped dancing.
Who inspires you to dance?
My mom really inspired me initially, and it was basically to get me into something that I could use my body and learn some poise.
So do you see it more as much as exercise as it is dance? I mean,
Absolutely, absolutely.
which is it more of?
It's half and half. I mean, it's the artistic thing. If you're creating movement, you're creating beautiful sequences.
Right.
And then the other thing is it's a good way to feel good about yourself.
Well, what's your favorite form of dancing? And if you're doing salsa and hip hop, and what are some of the other ones? Tap and
Tap
jazz
and
and ballet.
ballet.
So what's your favorite?
I absolutely love tap dancing.
Why is
and,
that? Why is
and
that?
I don't know if Gregory Hines, I got a chance to dance with him in New York City at the Broadway Dance Center where I also trained. And his energy, his excitement about dance, it was just motivating. And
So would he
I've
be somebody
always
that
specialized.
he's someone that's inspired you then?
Absolutely. As well as Frank Hatchett, as well as my very first dance teacher, Corrine Morris Williams. I've had a lot of good people that inspire me.
Well, I seem to understand why you dance, but why would you teach dancing? It's 2 different things.
You know what? I have seen children go from being very shy, very reserved, to just turning into just divas and people that have just so much confidence in themselves. Dance gives you that, and I think that that's something that everybody can use.
So what's the most rewarding part of you teaching then? What are you getting out of it?
Seeing somebody take the movements, make them into a beautiful sequence, or else just seeing somebody take dance and feel good about themselves, to maybe trim down a few pounds, to maybe use it to decrease stress.
So if
There's
people are
so many
taking
benefits.
dancing classes from you, are they taking it for exercise? Or are they taking it to perform? What-
Both.
So do your students perform somewhere?
Yes, our students perform. We have local performances throughout the year. We have one major show towards the fall part of the year.
Okay.
And then we do community performances throughout the year.
So does everyone that comes to your dance studio, they automatically feed into that show, or are some people there just to exercise? I mean, how does that?
You know what, Trey? Some people are there just because they want to work out, but they get electrified through the movement, and then they end up being some of our top performers in the show.
So does your show incorporate all the levels of dance?
Yes, everybody from beginning, from my 2-year-olds who have no fear about going out on stage, to my adults. We have all age levels.
How do you control the 2-year-old groups and the 3-year-old groups? It seems like they might just decide they want to keep dancing.
And sometimes they do. And that's part of the show, and they always steal the show with that. You know what? You teach them the discipline. One good thing about dance is you do learn discipline. My 2-year-olds are very, very disciplined. They understand how to make a line. They understand when we're on stage. They understand center stage. They understand the concepts. And that's the amazing thing. People think that children can't learn that, but they
Yeah.
can.
Well, what type of training is needed? I mean, and how much workout time do you need to put into this? If somebody wanted to go, well, I want to maybe try it and maybe get into dancing, how does that work?
You know what? You can start at wherever you are in your life at that particular point. If you are training to be a professional dancer, obviously you're going to need dance classes, as often as possible.
Like every day or something?
Yeah,
Wow.
if you can.
Yeah.
If you are just doing it recreationally because you want the extra exercise, you want the benefits of a more toned, more well-tuned, more healthier body, then maybe you want to try like 3 times a week or something like that.
So you would recommend 3 times a week for
Yes.
people just starting out?
Yes, and you know what? The thing about dance, you can do that in so many, it doesn't always have to be in a studio. You can do that at home. Every day you brush your teeth. Every day you get up. Every day I think you need to do some form of exercise, some form of dance.
Why are you so positive on dance? I mean, it seems like it's your life. It's your
Well,
passion.
It is, it is. You know what? I've just seen the benefits of it. I think that you can stay young. I think that you can have a healthier body. I think that you can reduce stress. There are just so many benefits to it.
Well,
I'm sold.
It seems like you are. What advice would you give for an aspiring student? I mean, are there certain areas they should go in, tap or ballet or jazz? I mean, there's a lot of dance, so how do you know which road to go and which one to take?
I think you should, you try what you think you like to do. And if you're not sure, try it anyway and give it and see if it feels good. One thing about dance, there are so many different forms, there's so many different ways to approach it, that if one doesn't work out, tap doesn't work out for you, try ballet. Ballet doesn't work out for you, try some exercise workout classes.
Which one would you say would be the most difficult? I mean, I would think maybe ballet.
Ballet is very, very disciplined, and you do need to focus, and you have to be a bit serious, especially as you get more into the harder steps. So yes, you do.
How's choreography play into your dance, and who decides the choreography? Like your various groups you talk about when you have this big show?
Mm-hmm.
Who picks out the music, and who does the choreography?
Well, because we have different teachers in our studio, we all do a combination. We all contribute. I might see something in a baby class, a movement that looks cute, and I might try it in an advanced class. So choreography comes from different things.
But do you watch other dancers and get ideas for movement,
Oh,
or are there
absolutely.
just certain steps that I mean, I don't know anything about
You
dancing.
see
So
movies, you see plays, you see different things on television, on the internet, just different. Choreography comes from a wide range of sources.
I've watched. We've all watched television shows and movies, and they'll have dance scenes in it or musicals, and it seems like it's very difficult for everyone to do all that at the same time.
Yeah.
Is that just repetition? I mean,
Yes,
how do
it
you
is.
get to that point?
It's constant rehearsing, it's practice, it's more practice on top
Like
of that.
how much rehearsal for your group to get to the point to where they can perform in front of an audience?
Trey, we normally, when we're getting ready for a show, we're going to practice almost every day.
For like how long? Like a month?
For a couple of months.
Couple of months.
Couple of months
and
before
and
the
that's
show.
one number they're practicing?
1, 2, or 3, depending
Wow.
on the numbers that we have in the show. Yes.
Well, how do you, when you're watching your group and someone's out of sync, how do you get them into sync?
You tell them, first of all, you go over the counts with them and make sure that they're counting correctly.
Okay.
And then you show them, okay, speed it up or slow it down.
Just seems like it would be, from an outsider, it would be very
Yeah.
difficult to everyone be in step.
Well,
And
that's the rehearsing, and that's the practice, and that's why you have the great mirrors, and that's why you practice, and that's why you have one person fall out, look at the group, and then that person goes back in, looks at, that way you can see the mistakes and then clean them up.
You seem positive that you could just pretty much fix anyone or get anyone
yeah,
to teach
yeah.
anyone to dance.
Even you.
You think so?
I want to
Yeah?
teach you to dance.
Well, what's next for you at Footprints?
We are expanding. I am planning to do some things with some seniors. I have a group of seniors that have approached me about teaching a senior class. They feel that they want to move, they want to dance. And these are people that are like in their 60s and 70s. So I encourage anybody that's older that still has that dancer inside,
Right.
that wants to try some movements, to please give me a call. That's absolutely fine. I think that that's neat because since people are living longer now, they want to keep their bodies toned. They want to do things to ensure that health.
Well, the name of our show is Inside the Artist's Mind.
Yes.
And you're our artist. So we always ask you what's inside your mind.
You know what? I think that it's just so wonderful that you can express through your body. And you may not be on Broadway, you may not be in Los Angeles or Chicago, but you can always express. And I think that having the opportunity to express through dance and to teach other people how to do that has been one of my greatest joys. It's just, when you see those creative juices flowing
Yeah.
and you see people getting excited, older people that have never danced, or people that possibly are a little bit overweight, that, oh, I could never go into a
Exactly,
studio
yeah.
and put on a leotard and tights or whatever. Seeing them go inside and take that challenge, I mean, it makes your heart feel good.
Well, I believe you could teach anyone to dance. I
think
can
I
just feel the energy coming from you.
Well, thank you.
Well, thanks so much for being on our show.
Oh, it's over already.
Hopefully we'll check up with you down the road, maybe see
Okay.
what you guys at Footprints are up to later.
And can we get you to come by, take some classes?
You never know. You
Okay.
never know.
We'll save that spot for you.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Well, that's our show. I hope you enjoyed it. And thanks for watching IAM. Until next time.
For more information on our show, contact us at 480-969-3789 or drop us a line at moreinfo@iamtvshow.com.
Ready? You're making a lot of noise. It's distracting me. Do you know what a news artist does? We'll find out when we... I think I just spit.
I think it's.
Do over.
That was my best.
10 out.
Right.